So, hello everyone. We are back again after a break, I guess, and talk about the Scrum Master interview related queries. And I know many of you have been using our videos and also giving interviews. So, we have a one volunteer participant with us, and he is willing to talk about his Scrum Master interview experience. Maybe before we get to your specific queries, I know you want to talk a lot about your specific queries. Give us little background, like what kind of job you are looking for, what is your overall experience of looking as a Scrum Master role. So give a little background, and then we start with your queries.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Saket. Nice, great, connecting with you. Uh, in the industry, I'm looking for a Scrum Master role, and I have around 15 years plus and around 3 years in a Scrum Master role in my previous companies. And I've attended a couple of interviews, and just thought of sharing with my recent interview and about how I have fared and I can also get your perspective with respect to the interview also.
Sure, sure. So your voice is coming little low. If you can do something about it, then it will be good. Uh, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, like before we talk about the specific queries or the question you got in the interview,
Mm-hmm.
tell me the overall market experience. What do you feel like? Like what kind of calls you are getting in the
Yeah,
industry nowadays?
yeah. I think lot of probably mid-level 5 to 10 years experience. There are a lot of opening calls are there, but all depends upon the profile they are selecting with respect to the particular matches with their position. But definitely, I think there are a lot of good opportunities and positions are available in the market.
Good, good. So what I'm hearing is that 5 to 10 year range is usually the more hot, and maybe 10 year plus, maybe not that much. Is that the thing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay, okay.
Probably mid-level experience.
Mid-level experience is more options
Correct.
available. Okay,
Yeah,
great. I think let's get started with your queries. Thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, fine. Let me start with no, one of the question which no, with respect to the interview, no, that there was a question with respect to the Power BI, okay, which is not part of my particular skill. So I could not start with the interview. That particular, how do you handle this, this particular kind of situation? The requirement was maybe related to the more Power BI related requirement.
Yeah. So see, one thing is that whenever we are going for interview, we need to know the job description, and we
Mm-hmm.
need to see what portion of our profile matching with that job description. There is a possibility some areas are not well matched. You can say there are 10 things they asked. I have 8 things, but 2 things are not there. So I need to be clear at least that this was asked, but I don't have it probably. And
Mm-hmm.
I did little research, so I know that this is the thing, this is how it works, and if needed, I can manage that. Yeah. So if I demonstrate that kind of answer, it would be good, especially when I am applying for a position where one skill is asked. Now, rather than going specifically into Power BI, what is Power BI? Because that may be a different case next time. Power BI is definitely a data presentation analysis tool, and it is something Microsoft tool which helps you to visualize and show the information, usually used in the complex projects where you are compiling information from multiple sources. Sometimes the tool like Jira helps you in preparing dashboards, but some organization who want to do some advanced reporting and analysis, they may take little specific tools for data presentation and analysis. So you can call it, it's a BI tool, business intelligence or data analysis tool. But this is how I think I should know a little bit description of the position, and then I should handle that question in the interview.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, okay. Thanks for your from your perspective. Okay. Yeah. Then there are there's a question like Scrum board, like basically what is the Scrum board and what is day to day how it is used and one of the kind of management report. So,
So
so
Scrum board and Kanban board are more or less same. Yeah, there is not
mhm.
much difference. Technically, what we use is we tell that if you are saying your board Kanban board, then you need to define work in progress limits. But
Mhm.
if you just have a visualization without defining work in progress limit, you can call it Scrum board. But for practical purpose, the way we make our sprint backlog visual to ensure that we all are focusing on achieving sprint goal, that visual board is called Scrum board.
Okay. Yeah, then another question with respect to Scrum dashboard, which which I explained, it is representation of all the different type of reports with the graphical representation with respect to the Scrum dashboard. So, do you have any more explanation related to that Scrum
So there
dashboard?
is a possibility that
Mm-hmm.
since the interview and this particular experience is also connecting to Power BI, they may
Mm-hmm.
want to understand that how do you keep your information about your work transparent, and how what kind of quick dashboards you make for giving a summary of what is happening in the work area. So tools like Jira, you can make dashboards there. Now dashboard is definitely a graphical presentation and this all, but possibly you as a Jira administrator or you as a project manager may want to configure that dashboard. So you will say that, okay, in my dashboard, I show the issues which are pending from more than 3 days. And in my dashboard, I also show our flow of work moving from various stages of our Kanban board. I also talk about the aging report of various issues of different types. So these are the 3 4 things which we present for a dashboard. Now I can create a dashboard different for team members and different for my management. So for a team dashboard, I also show them a stream of different ticket which are worked upon. So when my team member goes in, they also see what other team members are working on. Yeah, so that kind of a little elaborated answer might help. Yeah, I don't know. It depends upon interviewer mindset as well. But yes, dashboard is a summarization of various information of your project. Yes, you are right. And then I can give a little bit more detail that how I possibly have seen in my situation or my projects.
Okay. Yeah. Then another question related to the Burndown chart. Uh, what what basically it contains, so like what is used for, like the explanation about the Burndown chart.
So that is something I would say that depends. It becomes I need to be a little suspicious when someone asks this, because this looks a very basic question. Yeah, so I need to understand what is the probably the real intent they have. Do they want to understand that do we have a smooth burn down chart, or do they want to understand that do we plot burn down chart based on story points, or do we plot the burn down chart based on remaining hours? So probably I need to understand that. If the person is not giving that intention, then probably I need to start with basics and give a little advanced information. So maybe as a basics, we can definitely say the burn down chart is a easiest way to see how are we progressing towards end goal. We usually prepare it at a sprint level. Sometimes you do it at a release level also. For a release level, it becomes a good communication tool for our stakeholders, because they are only interested in knowing when are you finishing, guys, and how likely we are going to finish on a gift defined number of iterations. So that's easy presentation. At a sprint level, it works as a good indicator for our daily stand-ups, so that we can see how we are heading or heading towards our closer. The burn down chart is a simple representation of the x-axis is a timelines, time duration. If you are focusing on sprint, it's a day. If you are focusing on releases, it's the iteration. And the y-axis is a remaining work. Remaining work can be in the format of story point, can be in the format of hours if you are estimating hours in the sprint, or it could be based on number of items. Yeah, we can just focus on number of items pending, just count of the stories. These are the possible way we can prepare the burn down chart. So I probably want to go little advanced if someone is just asking about the burndown chart.
Okay. Yeah, understand. I explained standard how it the Burndown chart represents. And then another question which was related to the who does the who defines the sprint goal. Actually, in one of the definition, I was a little bit confused and answered as it was done by developers, because though with respect to the sprint goal, but with respect to sprint planning, who defines the sprint goal?
So I think such kind of questions,
Mm-hmm.
my recommendation is not
Mm-hmm.
just go by book like what Scrum tells about and all.
Mm-hmm.
Try to take it in our projects. Yeah, so I'm not say you don't try to become that I tell Scrum tells this. Yeah, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't try to do that. You
Mm-hmm.
take it to your project situation.
Mm-hmm.
So in your projects or in general, yeah, that's what happens. The draft sprint goals should be proposed by the product owner in the beginning of the sprint planning meeting itself. The
Mm-hmm.
draft number of items or the items which we are expected to plan in a sprint should be proposed by the product owner. And during the sprint planning meeting, we should figure out, negotiate, evaluate what can be done, what cannot be done. And based on our joint analysis of what is possible, we finalize the sprint goal and sprint backlog in a way. Yeah, so this is something we do. Sprint backlog keep evolving. So it's a collaborative work done by the sprint Scrum team. In the beginning, we definitely have a starting of the product owner. He tells us this is what I want to do, and then team has to see can we really do it. So sprint planning meeting work as a collaboration meeting where we see the business priority matches the team's capacity and team's ability to finish the work, and that way we define the sprint goal. I think that kind of answer will be safe than you going to that say developer does it or product owner does it. I think it could lead to into trouble.
Okay. Okay. Fine then. Yeah. Then another question was with respect to the user story point. When I was explaining, I was telling that the sprint user story should be within a 3 or maximum 5 points. Or I was telling about the maximum 3 points. If it crosses, it should be again slice and dice so that it should be more mutable, and it should be doable within the as small it is as a invest model, as small it is better. But probably the question was, are you confident it should not be more than three? How do we, yeah,
So see, the
answer?
idea here is definitely you may had this rule in your organization which you shared.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you have an opportunity to represent it,
Mm-hmm.
you tell it that we want to have sufficient number of user stories in the sprint. It should not happen that we only take 2 3 stories and we get filled with our whole sprint capacity. And we don't want to have a situation where we want to take 10 15 stories and we remain confused about so many stories work item. So we have figured it out that it is in a team of 6 7 people. Yeah, you can say we are 6 7 people. We have figured it out that if we go, so you give that detail between 5 to 10 stories, it is good enough for a given sprint. Less than 5, it means there are stories are too big. Less more than 10, it brings too much overhead to us. So we usually stick to 7 to 8 user stories in our sprint. Now, based on our historical capacity, we have seen that if we have a story point on average of 3 pointer, then 7 becomes around 21. So we can say 21 is usually our 22, 23 is our historical velocity. So we stick to have a stories on the average size of 3 so that we have a sufficient number of work, easy to distribute and easy to work during the sprint. And we can incrementally finish also. If you have a big stories, it takes long time to finish it. And that is how we have made a recommendation that for our project team that we should have a 3 to 5 or maybe a 5 story point is the thing. Else we prefer to split it, not a very hard rule, but we prefer to split it. By default, I understand Scrum only tells that the work should finish in a given sprint. There is no other rule. So whatever is the size, it is okay. Whatever story we pick, we should target to finish it as per definition of done within the sprint. And for us, it is something which we are taking at a 5 pointer or 3 pointer. That is how I can put it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you then. And another point was with respect to the capacity planning. Generally, the capacity planning is done in hours. Ask me how is the capacity planning is done? If it is done in hours, and again how that will be managed or discussed in the with respect to sprint planning.
So I think
The
that is
user
also,
stories,
yeah.
user story point will come into picture. And then mapping basically.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is again a little tricky thing. Giving theoretical answer will be a little difficult because people can say this is right theory, wrong theory,
Mhm.
and better I take it that this is how we used to do. So if you tell how we used to do, that will be a little easier.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to have an understanding of how many productive days and hours we have. At the same time, we need to have an understanding of how our historical velocity have been. We do have some amount of correlationship which shows that X number of hours usually get consumed for a one story point based on historical data. We don't say that one story point equal to 8 hours, but we have been seen historically that based on our previous velocity and capacity, our story points usually take 7 to 10 hours. Yeah, we have an understanding. So we do have a capacity as a identified number. Now, second thing, it depends upon when you are doing sprint planning. Many companies or teams do sprint planning based on hours only. They don't focus on story points when they are doing sprint planning. And that is, we call it commitment driven planning. So when we are looking at sprint planning, we don't worry about how much story point this story had. We look at how much hours now this story probably will take and who are the people who can contribute to it, and based on that we plan. So we can definitely do capacity driven or a commitment driven sprint planning. But when we focus on release, when we focus on beyond one sprint, then we can't do hour based and capacity based planning. We focus on velocity based planning. So in that case, on the basis of historical velocity, we predict that this is something we can do for upcoming few iterations. So you need to balance where you also show that yes, there is some amount of correlationship which emerges between story point and our capacity. Some emerges, but it is not very linear. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down. So at the same time, we need to use that information to predict our releases, and release predictions can have a 20-30% error also. When I predict that I'm going to make a release in 4 iteration, it may happen in 4, it may happen in 5. Yeah, it is not very certain. But when I do a sprint level commitments, they are expected to be more certain. And that's why we go into the details when we are doing sprint planning.
Okay. So I mean to say it can be related or it can be mapped with respect to the capacity planning in hours and
So
as
you
well
can
as
say that some organization, yeah, do maintain a metric which talks about the velocity to capacity ratio. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you can talk about that historically we have been seeing the trend of velocity to capacity ratio. It is for observation. It is not for enforcement. We do want to see how our capacity to velocity ratio is changing. There is a possibility we have a new people coming in, then our capacity to velocity ratio will go down. It may happen that we have a technical depth, our capacity of to velocity ratio will also get impacted. So we need to see. So it could be an observation point. It should not be so all data can be observed. There is no problem with that, but maturely it is not like you must produce this much velocity and then we are doing something to make sure that velocity is coming. So that behavior we don't have to show, but we can say this is something practically we have been doing. Now it is something which should match with your other story. So if your organization has been doing it some extent, and you can also communicate some of the risk associated with it, and say that we have been educating our team not to take velocity very seriously. We need to focus a good quality work. We need to finish what the story we are finishing. We need to see metrics in the perspective. It is just not one metrics which tells how are we doing. We need to see customer feedback. We need to see our retrospective results, and by looking at various factors we decide how are we doing, and we improve continuously.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
your more detailed explanation. And another question related to the technical debt. How the technical debt arises and what is its impact?
So see, there is a possibility of a theoretical answer, and there is a. I encourage you to find your relatable answer. So theoretical perspective, it is easy to say the technical debt means less than perfect design and code. Yeah, that's a thing, and at some point in time you need to improve it. So you can say, oh, we have been making releases, and we have a situation. Sometimes we have a committed features, and we need to release those stories and features, and at some point in time we discover there is no right there is some defects, and we end up taking shortcuts. We don't have time to do end-to-end fixing for that particular thing because that release has to happen, and then we take a shortcut, but at the same time that shortcut has to be fixed, because if we don't do it, then we keep accumulating shortcuts. So there has been a situation where we were into release to release to release, and there has been 3-4 shortcut releases done, and then it became so difficult to maintain our code, because for small things we have to take long time. So we need to remove those shortcuts and do it properly, because now we need to make the code maintainable for future. So these shortcuts which need to be fixed at some point in time are technical debt. They are like you have taken a debt to make something happen, but that debt has to be repaid. If you don't repay it, it keep accumulating. And since the accumulation is going big, your future speed will go down. Your predictability of your finishing of the work goes poor, and the defect may start popping up because the things are not perfect and the system may not remain stable for very long. Now, how you probably started handling it, you can say that we started creating a work item for fixing. So whenever we take a shortcut, we create a work item and say that this work item, say enabler work item or technical debt removal work item, we put into a product backlog and we put a description around it and we negotiate with our product owner to prioritize that work item. And periodically, I as a Scrum Master also remind team and the product owner whenever they are doing backlog refinement to proactively think about that do they need something to improve our technical aspects as well. And we keep discovering the technical debt. Sometimes we are not aware, but they got just introduced in the product over a period of time. So we identify them and periodically we remove them. So we make our product more stable and future velocity get sustained.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Then another question with respect to the team member conflict handling. As you know, standard method I was handling, first I'll try to resolve at the team member level only. Then, get into the next level in case if it is, what is the issue and how it cannot be resolved to the next level. But in between, while I was telling, I was using more word product manager because I have, more familiar with the word, though product owner or the other stakeholder, other management. But maybe, is it is it okay or how it can be handled very well in with respect to the conflict management. I use the word product manager more, and
So
when
I
I
think
switch
that
into next
all
level.
depends upon the interviewer also. It is very difficult to predict. But a conflict is one of the common thing you will get into most of the leadership interviews nowadays, be it a Scrum Master, project manager, or any other leadership role. People will ask questions about conflict. And we need to demonstrate the competency of managing conflicts with the help of examples. You need to give this kind of conflict usually came last time came and this is how I handle it. I made a separate video talking about it. And when we give an example of conflict, we should ensure the conflict should not look very basic. They should be really looking little serious one. Serious one means which worth having. You want to have a healthy conflict in your team. So conflict should not be who should do this work. This is your job, this is my job, and people are in a conflict. That happens. But that usually happens in the initial stage of team development. So I ensure that we have a proper working agreement. We have a proper understanding. We have been through team building activities. People started understanding each other's personality. They have a familiarity about the strength and weaknesses of different individuals. They have sufficient amount of trust in the team. And once I build that, the basic conflicts related to roles and responsibility, communications stops coming in and they get handled by them. So first I need to build a trust in my team. I need to bring the transparency in the team. I need to build the working agreement in the team so the basic conflicts are taken care. Then we have advanced conflicts like technical options, maybe approach of solving things, maybe a definition of done related conflicts. So we need to bring out those kind of conflicts where both the parties seems to be right because they are looking at the problem from a different perspective. And then our goal is that these are good. We better align ourselves to the real thing which is needed in our organization, and we do a healthy conversation, and based on that we resolve it. Yeah, so that's kind of story I need to build. But yes, it depends upon how and what happening in that particular conversation.
Okay. Yeah. That is that's fine. And then another question which earlier similar to this, with respect to daily Scrum, in the 15 minutes, what are all the things, because of the short time, a very short time, what are the things discussed in the daily Scrum?
So say, yeah.
Because it's a time boxed event and, there's not much time to discuss how
Yeah.
how it will be
So you can
handled
say,
in
how do
the
we do it? Yeah. So probably
yeah,
see, the better question could be
yeah,
if the interviewer asks that, how do you conduct your daily stand-up, rather than asking how to fix everything in 15 minutes.
yes,
And I should be ready with that answer. And if I'm ready with that answer, these kind of answers will be easy to explain. So I need to I need to have a clarity. that what is the objective of daily stand up, how do we achieve that objective, what kind of communication we do before daily stand up during the day, so that daily stand up is not the one where all the communication is happening. People should know what is going on. Maybe we don't discuss each and everything which people are doing, we only discuss things which are possibly stuck or things which follow a particular guideline. So we have a specific way of identifying what are the possible things which we can discuss in a daily stand up. We have a mechanism of doing the essential conversation and then only holding those people who are expected to get into details to the second level. So the theory tells that you do a 15 minutes of quick sync up, and after that you may have a follow-up session which only required the required people. It is not like the whole team has to stand, and these people can do a little detailed conversation related to the area which they are facing. It also depends if the team has been co-located, they have been talking throughout the day, the daily stand-up can go easily. If you have a situation where people are working virtually and this is the only time they are synchronizing with each other, then we may need to modify the agenda. Sometimes we may need to modify the timeline as well. So it is very difficult to just say that 15 minutes irrespective of team size. Team size, again, if we follow a scrum rule of 3 to 9 team member and all, still 3 is different and 9 is different. And irrespective of the location they are working from, irrespective of the they are coming to office or they are virtual, they are in a time zone or a different one. So there are many factors plays a role to come up with a sync up meeting. So you probably create a simple story where you don't violate many of the scrum rules. You can say, no, we have we had a team. In my recent experience where we had a familiarity and we could do in 15 minutes. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then you focus on the objective more rather than a typical agenda. And then you tell, the follow-up conversation are usually done in the meet afters.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Uh, and another, the other questions are most related to the, reports only, like, churn reports, efficiency report. So, as you pointed earlier, I think there are most of the questions were related to the reports from the, the product development. So, can you tell more about that?
So you can say that
report?
there could be a question related to what all matrices you follow. Yeah. And matrices, reports, and management update, there could be a question related to it. So my recommendation is use the scaled agile resources. They have a good resources on their website called Measure and Grow, and they will give you various types of matrices. The answer, you may talk about velocity, you may talk about cumulative flow diagram, you may talk about burn down chart, burn up chart, and maybe a control chart. All these things are possible. We have lots of videos on Jira where you can see all these charts. We have a scaled agile website which tells about it. But for the interview purpose, I need to pick those matrices which I have been using, and I need to talk about how this matrix helps me in solving my team problem. So say I can talk about velocity, but I need to be very clear. How do I use velocity? Why do we capture it? And what kind of problem it helps me in exposing? And what kind of learning we take when we see a particular trend in the velocity? So any metrics you pick up, like a velocity, cumulative flow, burn down chart, control chart, or anything else, you better be clear that this is how we have been doing. This is how my current metrics looks like. This has been the trend, and this is how we have done retrospective around it. Me and my team has done a brainstorming around it, and that's why this matrix is important. Just defining the matrix and naming it may be a risky thing in the interview space.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
But these are the popular one. You can focus on velocity. You can pick up some defect matrices. You can pick up burn down chart, burn up chart, cumulative flow diagram. You avoid, yeah, because it's little complicated to explain. So if even if the person gets interested, even if you are using, sometime it may difficult to communicate that. So pick up the one which you are very confident about, yeah, because these matrices need to be explained well as well.
okay. Okay. And yeah, the other question was related to the, about knowing about the safe, safe environment, and a little bit, the basic concept about safe. So though I have not worked on safe, but I had a little, I knew the basics of safe and the different roles in the safe. So can you, no, I could able to just do the basics. Can you,
So we have
share
around
that?
50 plus videos on SAFE. Yeah, that is
Okay,
something
okay,
you can
okay,
try it out. And we
okay.
do run scaled agile classes.
Mm-hmm,
So I would say that spend time to watch those videos
mm-hmm,
because it's a little complicated and big framework. That's a
mm-hmm.
simple thing.
Okay,
And it's a way of working where we create family of agile teams and make them a big family so that this big family, joint family work together to achieve a goal. Yeah, you have a scrum as a small nuclear family, you create a small scrum families and create a big family, and that is a agile release train, and this agile release train has a mechanism of delivering value. So in a nutshell, it is used by the organization where they want to reconfigure their whole organization in a safe way of working over a period of time, and it requires creation of a large group of or a big group of agile teams, which is called agile release trains. And this agile release train has a mechanism of planning together. The PI planning meeting is one of the important meeting of scaled agile framework. And then they do an execution in the iterative and incremental manner. So that is a summary, but I think for an interview, this summary will not be sufficient.
yeah,
Yeah, if they are using it, then they expect you to know what is PI planning, what are the roles in SAFE, and which role you probably will fit into. Yeah, so that kind of understanding should be there. So we have around 50 plus videos. You watch them, you get an idea. If you want to have more formal SAFE in your profile, then you probably want to do a SAFE certification.
okay, okay. Yeah, I think, I've covered, I think I have covered the questions which I had
Great.
planned
Yeah,
to ask.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, thanks for your
Great. Yeah,
explanation.
thank you. Yeah,
So
nice
yeah,
talking.
though I could not able to explain the way you have explained it, but yeah, so probably this will help in the future.
What I
Uh,
say is that the whole key is that I start practicing it. I don't
mm-hmm,
wait for interview to answer my questions. The
mm-hmm,
questions which we have discussed today, they are
mm-hmm,
typical. They are not something which are very different. Yeah, they are usual to, questions which may come,
mm-hmm,
but the answer for these questions will vary from person to person.
mm-hmm,
And that is what I have to show, that I say, even if someone is asking the same question, how do you do story pointing? What is story points? So
mm-hmm,
even if the question looks same, but I need to give an answer differently. I need to start with, we started like this, we had a team of these many people, initially we had a struggle, and this is how we settled down to a story point estimation. Yeah. So you tell your story of story point estimation rather than you tell what is written in agile estimation and planning as a book about story point, or what is taught in the CSM class about the story point. So, and that is how I bring a differentiator. Maybe the other candidate is giving a book answer, but you are giving, but you try to balance both. You cover the book. It should not happen that in the practice story you forget the book. Yeah, and then the interviewer say, you don't even understand the concept. Yeah, so then it's a problem. But if I ensure that my answer is covering the book, it is covering the concept, but it is also giving a flavor which makes the person feel that this guy is hands on. They have been using it. It is not just he read it somewhere and he's presenting to me. So I keep practicing that kind of questions and answer. I can make a note of it. I was talking to one of the candidate who has been doing the interview, who has been taking the going for job interviews very frequently. So he was saying that I do Zoom interviews nowadays. What I do on a phone, I record my whole conversation. And once the interview is over, then I listen to my conversation multiple times to find out how it was going. Yeah. It's a very good idea, though. Yeah, it requires a lot of investment and courage, because listening to your own answer is not that easy. But this guy was sharing that he has been doing it, and we were like I was advising some of the questions to him. But such kind of retrospective is very important. So I find out customized answer for those questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you. It
yeah,
was nice
thank you.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice
Bye for
speaking to you.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Bye.
thank you. Yeah.